Hey guys.
Hi.
Stacey, I love the pink in your hair.
Thank
It
you.
is so cute.
Working my way back into my natural state of being.
So, last episode, we talked about codependency, what that is, where it comes from. And Amber, at the end, you had mentioned something about reparenting as the way to repair some of what was done to me or what I needed and did not get in childhood. Can you speak a little bit more on what you meant by reparenting?
Sure. I'd be happy to. I got a lot of amberisms, so I can't quote like out of book definitions, but I can definitely give you the amberism verbiage.
Mhm.
Reparenting for me is rooted in an unmet need from childhood that my parents didn't have to give me. Um, and just because they didn't have it doesn't mean I spend the rest of my life in deficit. I can offer myself that repair because if my parents didn't have to give to me then, they probably don't have it to give to me now as a 43-year-old woman.
Mhm.
And when I'm in recovery, it gives me the gift of awareness. So I'm able to start connecting dots and seeing where I need repair, where I need reparenting. And there's lots of ways that shows up. But from a reparenting standpoint, it very much is doing for me what was never done for me. And that's not about blame and fault. That's just about fact.
Yeah. I feel like, especially earlier on in my recovery, I had a really hard time with it's not about blame and fault. I felt very protective of my parents. I have really loving parents. I remember having a really happy childhood, and there were a lot of things that I did not get or needs that were not met that I've learned through my own recovery, and feeling like, well, they were doing the best that they could. So having a really hard time kind of reconciling, like, it's not about blaming them. Um, it's about it just they gave me what they could. Can either of you speak a little bit more into that?
Yeah, I think for me, that was a huge part for me too, and is one that comes up in a lot of conversations, whether that's in 12-step rooms or in therapy rooms with people that I'm talking with, because there can be such activation, it can be
Mhm.
such a trigger to say the word reparenting when I don't identify with the idea of having a bad childhood or a traumatic
Mhm.
childhood. And you use the word and, Jen, and I think that's one of the things that we talk about so often is living in the and.
Mhm.
And this is another one of the places where that really applies is that, you know, I had a great childhood and I have great relationships with the parents that I have. And there was something different or more that I needed. And that could be just because they weren't equipped to offer that to me. Um, it could be because my father was a child that grew up with parents from the Depression and just didn't know. You can't give what you don't know, right? And some of it's also on me because some of it is, um, you know, a lot of these behaviors and perceptions begin so early in our lives when we're little people that are
Yeah.
just trying to make sense out of the world with incomplete information and fill in the blanks in the best way that we know how. And for me, that came along with assumptions and things like that that may not have been accurate, and the emotional impact of them still existed. And so, for some extent in my journey, reparenting has been discovering those places that it really wasn't even, my parents didn't know it needed parenting because it wasn't a them thing, it was innate for me.
Yeah. Thank you for
I think
that.
the other end of that pops up, these tend to be the clients that find me,
Mhm.
are the clients that want to blame, that need to blame.
Mhm.
and creating the relationship between blame and stuck. Because the intention or the relationship that happens between blame and stuck is control.
Mhm.
It's another way that I do to me what was done to me.
Mhm.
And there are times when parents do make mistakes and there is neglect or abuse. And there is this point of awareness that one goes through because we can't do these bypasses, right?
Mhm.
We go through where there's a recognition of ownership past internalization, where internalization is I'm a little girl and daddy and mommy must be fighting because I did something wrong. And in inner child work and reparenting, there is this process through where it becomes not about me, but it becomes about them. The
Mhm.
pendulum swings. And that's good because there's movement. And what happens when I'm blaming others is I'm trying to find some semblance of control because my world was so uncontrollable.
Mhm.
And I think at so many parts of my life, that was a part of my story. And I know it's why I was stuck for so long, definitely stuck when I lost my dad to his addictions and diseases, and being able to recognize and separate a person from a disease, but also my codependency from me
Mhm.
is I'm not my story.
Mhm.
And learning how to give me what they didn't have to give me, and some of that was stability,
Mhm.
um, was learning through other healthier relationships in recovery. I say frequently in our Thursday night support group, I feel gifted by my higher power that I'm surrounded by these beautiful women that sometimes love me more than I love me.
Mhm.
They teach me how to do it because I'm not always great at it, because that's my blueprint. That's where I come from.
Mhm.
And that's not because my parents did it to me, it's because they didn't have it to give anything else. So being able to recognize that some of us are, I need to keep my parents safe, it's not their fault.
Mhm.
And others of us are in a different place where it absolutely is their fault. And then recognizing kind of what's in the middle. Where does the ownership lie then? And where does the ownership lie now?
Mhm.
Because I actually have the power to reparent that now.
Mhm. The not allowing it to keep you in a place of deficit
Yeah.
and to move out of the scarcity of connection and emotional relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, otherwise I just keep repeating all the same cycles and patterns, right? Relationally.
Mhm. Yeah. For me, what's coming up is just thinking about how much anger that I there's anger and projecting ownership outward of I would be my friends used to joke I was a serial monogamous. I would jump from relationship to relationship to relationship, and it was up to whoever my partner was. It was their job to fulfill all of my needs.
Mhm.
And this large anger that would come out when they couldn't, because nobody can do that for anybody. Um, and recognizing that it was about me learning how to do that for myself, and that I could do that for myself, and that it was my responsibility to do that for myself, um, as opposed to expecting other people that I'm in relationship with, whether that's friends or spouses or whoever. And I feel like that was also a huge turn for me in my own recovery of recognizing that reparenting and meeting the needs of my little person inside, my little girl, um, had to come first in my relationships, so that I didn't have this expectation that it was some external something that was going to do that for me. Um,
Beautiful. I love that, Jenna. It makes me think about the idea of like the romance movie You Complete Me thing, that is in almost every, not so many of the new ones, but almost every old Disney movie and so many of the rom-coms and things like that, where there's another place that it's reinforced, right? That you look for external validation to complete yourself. And being in relationship, whether that is romantically with a partner or with a friend or a family member, whatever that looks like, in order for it to be a functional relationship, I have to walk into it whole as myself and meet with another whole person. And then together that synergy is something greater, not two broken pieces trying to fulfill one another.
Or what was it that, I think it was a Shel Silverstein book, The Missing Piece. And it was rolling around the whole book trying to find the missing piece of itself. And that's very much, I feel like, what codependency feels or felt like for me was exactly what you were saying, Stacey, of that Disney princess dream, somebody to complete me.
Yeah. And then so the reparenting is finding the other half of that piece internally.
So what does that look like? How do we do that?
That's a great question.
One thing I know that comes up for me in my own story is I was so caught in the, I just want somebody to love me the way that I love them. I just want my friends to do for me the way what I do for them. And it was a standard of what I did that set other people up. And it never allowed me to participate in, I hate when this happens, in being a being. I was forced to participate in being a doing. And until I recognized the external versus the internal locus of control, I was really lost. And that's a whole nother conversation. But the way we start that missing piece is through, what do I need? And I know if there's any of my people listening to this, they're going, I hate when she asks me that question. And I really sit in that with them of, yeah, me too, right? Like, I hate when I ask me that question because I don't always know because I didn't get it. And that's when I know I got to look there. When I don't know the answer to something, I think I'm pretty intelligent. And when I don't know the answer to an emotional place, it's usually what shines a spotlight for me.
Yeah. For the record, I hate when you ask me that too.
That needs to be a t-shirt.
What do you need around that? Amber, I don't know. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah. And it just feels like such an honor to be in my recovery and not give an answer. Like, I'm showing that I love whoever I'm with, whether it's a client or whether it's a team member or a fellow traveler. It's like I sit in my recovery because there's a part of me that so bad wants to give an answer, so bad. And it's like, no, I honor you because I trust you to love you. If I didn't trust you, I'd be giving you an answer.
I also love that what I've learned is sometimes it's to not give an answer. Like, what I need is to just go back to being a being instead of being a doing, which sounds very Dr. Seuss. But for me, sometimes all I need is just to be seen. Or for somebody to just sit with me where I'm at. I don't need an answer. I don't need a solution. I don't need somebody to tell me that there's a nail in my forehead, if you've seen that video. It's just permission to be.
Permission to have needs, even if I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
Permission to not know.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for this conversation, ladies.
Thanks, Jen.
Jen.
And until next time.